Welcome to Dolphin Dive Daily, your go-to spot for everything Miami Dolphins. If you bleed aqua and orange, hit that subscribe button and join the party. The Miami Dolphins find themselves in a precarious situation heading into the 2025 NFL season, and the latest blow to their secondary has only intensified the pressure. With Kader Kohou officially ruled out for the year due to a serious knee injury sustained during Saturday's practice, the team's already thin cornerback depth chart has turned into a full-blown crisis. Kohou was the one certainty at the position, a dependable starter who was expected to anchor the defensive backfield. Now, the Dolphins must scramble once again, forced to dip back into a shallow pool of veteran free agents or consider less proven, younger talent. The situation is worsened by the simultaneous loss of Artie Burns, another potential starter, who suffered a torn ACL. In response, the team added Cornell Armstrong, Mike Hilton, and Jack Jones. 3 players with varying levels of experience, but none who provide guaranteed shutdown production. The urgency is real, and the Dolphins have no choice but to act again. It's not as though the additions of Hilton, Jones, and Armstrong inspire tremendous confidence. Mike Hilton is a savvy veteran with a history of solid slot play, particularly during his time with the Bengals, but he's not a fix-all. Jack Jones brings some potential on the outside, and he's likely going to be one of the starters by necessity, but he's been inconsistent in his young career and has never been asked to lead a secondary. Cornell Armstrong, meanwhile, is mostly a special teams player, unlikely to see significant defensive snaps unless the injury bug continues to ravage the unit. The remaining young corners, Storm Duck, Cam Smith, Kendall Sheffield, who's battling injuries himself, and Ethan Bonner are developmental pieces at best. There's simply no one on the roster right now who has proven they can step up and lock down a boundary receiver week after week. For a team with playoff aspirations, this is a dangerous place to be. Enter Rasul Douglas, a name that was already linked to Miami before the team made its most recent signings. Douglas, who last played for the Buffalo Bills, brings a physical presence and veteran savvy that could immediately elevate the group. In 2024, he started 15 games and racked up 43 tackles, 5 pass deflections, and a forced fumble. On paper, he looks like a reasonable addition. He's only 29 and has a history of being a playmaker with 19 career interceptions. But when you dig into the tape and his metrics from last season, things get less encouraging. Douglas failed to record a single interception for the first time since 2020, and he allowed a career-worst passer rating of 116.9 when targeted. Add to that 10 penalties on the year, a personal high, and you begin to see why the Bills felt comfortable replacing him with a rookie. The Dolphins might be interested, but they need him to bounce back significantly. Another potential name that makes sense, at least schematically, is ASANTE Samuel Jr., who played under Jesse Minter last season. Minter and Miami's defensive coordinator Anthony Weaver both come from the Mike McDonald coaching tree, meaning Samuel would step into a familiar system. In 2022 and 2023, Samuel was mostly reliable when healthy, logging over 1,000 snaps each season and tallying 7 interceptions and 22 pass breakups combined. His 2022 passer rating allowed of 81 shows he can play, and even in 2023 he wasn't a liability despite the number creeping up to 98. However, there are significant concerns surrounding his health. He's recovering from neck surgery and missed nearly all of 2024 due to a shoulder injury. Given Miami's current injury woes in the secondary, signing another player with durability questions might be a tough sell. To make matters murkier, his father recently criticized the Dolphins organization on his podcast, casting potential doubt on Samuel's willingness to join the team. Stephon Gilmore is another veteran option, and though he hasn't been directly linked to the Dolphins recently, he remains an intriguing fit. The 34-year-old former Defensive Player of the Year has aged better than most corners, playing in at least 15 games each of the last 3 seasons. In 2024, he suited up for the Vikings, logging 1 interception, 9 passes defended, and allowing a respectable passer rating of 94.1. While he's clearly lost a step from his Pro Bowl days, Gilmore remains a steady presence who can thrive in a zone-heavy scheme. That fits with what the Dolphins are likely to run this year, given the limitations of their current personnel. More importantly, he's durable, a trait in short supply in Miami's secondary right now. Gilmore might not wow with his athleticism anymore, but his instincts, positioning, and veteran leadership could be exactly what the Dolphins need to stabilize their cornerback room during a chaotic offseason. Michael Davis, currently with the Washington Commanders, could be another name to watch. Though he's coming off a disappointing 2024 season in which he started just 2 games and failed to record an interception, his past performance suggests he could provide some help in a zone-based system. From 2020 to 2022, Davis was a dependable piece for the Chargers, showing good awareness and physicality. However, his game fell apart last season with a career-worst 119.2 passer rating allowed and just 1 pass breakup all year. He also struggled to get on the field, despite Washington's cornerback group being among the weaker units in the league. Still, Davis brings size, experience, and familiarity with cover concepts the Dolphins are likely to employ. He's not a splash signing, but he could add competition and depth to a room that desperately needs both. Given the limited options available this late into the offseason, Davis could be worth a short-term flyer. C.J. Henderson is a far less appealing option, but the Dolphins' previous interest in him is telling. The former top 10 pick has bounced around the league since being traded from Jacksonville to Carolina and most recently landed on the Pittsburgh Steelers practice squad. In 2024, he didn't appear in a single game, and his last significant action came in 2019 when he logged 7 starts for the Panthers. Henderson's career has been marked by inconsistency, poor tackling, and blown assignments, and his numbers reflect that. He has just 2 career interceptions and has routinely allowed passer ratings over 100. He did participate in a tryout for Miami before they signed Armstrong instead, which suggests he's firmly on the fringe of the team's consideration. While his physical tools still intrigue, his tape and trajectory are simply too disappointing to justify a roster spot unless every other option dries up entirely. At this stage of the offseason, it's clear that none of these options will completely solve Miami's cornerback problem. The best case scenario is finding a player who can provide stability and avoid becoming a liability. Whether that's a veteran like Gilmore, a once promising starter like Douglas, or a scheme fitted like Samuel Jr. depends on how much risk the Dolphins are willing to assume. Injuries are already piling up, and adding more players with a history of being unavailable could backfire. What Miami needs is durability, experience, and someone who can hold their own in high-leverage situations. That's why Gilmore might be the safest pick, even if his ceiling is lower than others. Samuel may offer more upside, but his injury history is a red flag. Douglas, despite a poor 2024, has shown he can bounce back before. Whoever they choose, it's imperative the Dolphins make the right call quickly before training camp injuries put them even further behind. The broader concern is that the Dolphins' secondary doesn't exist in a vacuum. They'll face a gauntlet of elite receivers in the AFC, players like Stephon Diggs, Jamar Chase, Garrett Wilson, and Calvin Ridley, all capable of torching subpar coverage. If Miami's cornerbacks can't hold their own, it'll put even more pressure on the pass rush and linebackers to make up for mistakes on the back end. That's not a sustainable formula, especially in a division with elite quarterback play. Defensive coordinator Anthony Weaver may dial up creative schemes to compensate, but there's only so much scheme can do when the players simply aren't good enough. Kohu's injury wasn't just a hit to the depth chart, it was a blow to the team's entire defensive identity. If the front office doesn't find reinforcements that can play meaningful snaps at a high level, it's hard to see this Dolphins defense living up to expectations in 2025. Urgency must now translate into action. Finally, it's worth noting that the Dolphins still have time and cap flexibility to make a move. They've shown they're not afraid to act decisively, already signing 3 veterans in the wake of the Burns and Kohu injuries. The question now becomes whether General Manager Chris Grier and head coach Mike McDaniel are willing to be bold or cautious in this next signing. If they go bold, a player like Samuel Jr. or Douglas might be the move, despite the risks. If they lean cautious, Gilmore or Davis could offer more reliability. One thing is clear, doing nothing isn't an option. With only weeks remaining before the regular season begins, Miami can't afford to gamble on unproven players stepping up. They've already rolled those dice and came up short. This next move could very well shape the success or failure of their 2025 campaign. The time to act is now, before the Dolphins' playoff hopes sink under the weight of another injury-plagued position group. Still with us? Then show some love, hit that like button, and let us know in the comments, what's your take on the Fins this week? There's a buzz swirling around the NFL world. And if the whispers hold any weight, we might just be witnessing one of the smartest moves of this offseason. Rumor has it that cornerback Asante Samuel Jr. is headed to the Miami Dolphins on a reported 4-year deal, a move that's catching a lot of attention for both the upside and the timing. While official confirmation is still pending, insiders close to the situation are hinting that the deal is as good as done, with only final signatures and announcements left to be made. Samuel Jr., the son of the former Pro Bowl corner with the same name, has quietly but consistently elevated his game since entering the league. And now, if this deal materializes, he could be stepping into a defense that's already looking stacked, especially in the secondary. The Dolphins seem to be doubling down on speed, agility, and instinct in their backfield. What makes this move even more intriguing is the timing. The Dolphins have been relatively quiet this offseason, but this rumored signing suggests the front office has been playing the long game, watching the market, weighing options, and pouncing when the right opportunity came along. Asante Samuel Jr. may not be the flashiest name on the free agency list, but those who follow the game closely know he brings more than stats to the table. His football IQ, his footwork, and his ability to track the ball in tight coverage make him a natural fit for a team looking to ramp up its man-to-man defense. Combine that with the Dolphins' already aggressive front seven, and you could be looking at a defense that will force a lot of mistakes from opposing quarterbacks. Again, we're not talking confirmed details yet, but the word is getting louder in league circles. This deal could be a major chess move in the AFC East. Now let's talk about fit. Because if this signing is indeed happening, it's not just about adding talent. It's about adding the right kind of talent to the right system at the right time. The Dolphins under head coach Mike McDaniel have developed a reputation for playing sharp, disciplined football, particularly on the defensive side. Adding someone like Asante Samuel Jr. would align perfectly with their emphasis on hybrid defenders who can adapt, adjust, and anticipate. Think about it. You line him up opposite Jalen Ramsey once he's back and healthy, and suddenly Miami has one of the most versatile cornerback tandems in the league. It's a dream scenario for defensive coordinators. If this deal is real, and it sure sounds like it is, then we're seeing a front office that's not content with just making the playoffs. They're building to contend. It's about creating pressure, denying space, and making every snap a problem for opposing offenses. Let's also not ignore the legacy aspect of this move. Asante Samuel Jr. is more than just a rising talent. He's part of NFL royalty. His father, Asante Samuel Sr., was one of the best ball-hawking corners of his era, a player who made quarterbacks second-guess their decisions. For the younger Samuel, this rumored signing could be a defining chapter in carving out his own path. He's not just stepping into a new contract, he's potentially stepping into a leadership role on a defense with playoff ambitions. Reports say he's been looking for a system that allows him to showcase his instinct and technique, and Miami might be the perfect place for that. The Dolphins aren't just signing a player, they might be securing a cornerstone. If this rumor proves true, expect training camp to be electric. Samuel Jr. will have a lot to prove and plenty of eyes watching, especially from those who followed the family name for years. And what about the broader impact on the AFC East? If this deal with Asante Samuel Jr. becomes official, it could shift the balance of power ever so slightly. With the Patriots in rebuild mode, the Jets still searching for consistency, and the Bills trying to maintain dominance, the Dolphins have a real opportunity to capitalize. Samuel Jr.'s arrival could be the kind of under-the-radar signing that becomes a difference maker in tight divisional matchups. Remember, in a division where margins are razor thin, one elite corner can be the reason a team wins 2 or 3 more games. That's how pivotal this could be. There's a sense that Miami is preparing not just for a strong regular season, but for deep playoff football. And defense travels in the postseason. If this signing happens, it's not just a boost in the depth chart, it's a shift in mentality. A signal that Miami is ready to get physical, lock down receivers, and punch above its weight. But of course, not everyone is sold on Samuel Jr. being the missing piece. Some voices around the league question whether he's ready to take the leap into top-tier status. Yes, he's shown flashes, big plays, tight coverage, even a few game-saving moments. But consistency is still the question. The Dolphins might be betting on upside here, which isn't necessarily a bad thing sometimes. A change of scenery, a new coaching staff, or a fresh defensive scheme can unlock a player's potential in ways no one saw coming. Miami seems to think that moment is now for Samuel Jr., and the 4-year length being whispered around suggests the Dolphins believe in his long-term value. This isn't a rental. This could be a cornerstone contract. If the rumors hold true, Miami is committing to development and durability. And if Samuel Jr. can put it all together, they might just have pulled off one of the best defensive signings in recent memory. Still, what's being talked about behind closed doors is even more fascinating. Sources say Samuel Jr. had multiple teams interested in him, including some playoff caliber squads looking to add secondary depth. That he appears to be leaning toward Miami, if not already inked, says a lot about what the Dolphins are building. Whether it's the weather, the scheme, the chance to shine opposite another elite corner, or just a gut feeling, Samuel Jr. seems to have chosen not just a contract, but a mission. And while the deal is yet to be officially unveiled, the terms reportedly offer fair compensation with performance incentives baked in, meaning the Dolphins are investing, but wisely. They're putting the ball in Samuel Jr.'s court and saying, show us who you can be, and if he does, the ripple effects across the AFC could be enormous. Quiet signings can lead to loud results, and this one has that kind of potential written all over it. Another layer to this rumor is the cultural fit. Miami's locker room has become known for its blend of personality and professionalism. A tough, talkative, competitive group that holds each other accountable. That environment could be ideal for someone like Samuel Jr., who's known for playing with confidence and edge. In LA, he sometimes felt lost in the shuffle. In Miami, he might finally find the spotlight he's been chasing. Coaches love his work ethic, teammates appreciate his attitude, and fans are already buzzing on social media at the prospect of seeing Num 26, or whatever number he picks, making plays in aqua and orange. No confirmation from the Dolphins media team yet, but you get the feeling they're just waiting for the right time to make it official. Maybe it'll be a tweet, maybe a press conference. But when it drops, it's going to send shockwaves. This could be the move that sets the tone for the Dolphins' defensive identity going forward. And then there's the long-term strategy. Signing a player like Samuel Jr. on a 4-year deal isn't just about 2025. It's about building a defense that can grow together, gain chemistry, and stay elite over time. Pairing young, athletic corners with veterans in the locker room helps create a sustainable culture of competition. Plus, locking up key players now means fewer holes to fill in. Future off seasons is forward thinking. If this rumor is true, the Dolphins front office deserves credit for moving quickly and decisively. They didn't overpay. They didn't panic. They waited until the right moment and pounced. And if Samuel Jr. pans out the way many believe he can, the Dolphins could find themselves with a top 10 defense before the season hits its halfway point. It's the kind of signing that doesn't always make front page news, but winds up being remembered as a franchise-shifting decision. That's the weight this rumored deal is starting to carry. So as we wait for official word, the excitement is palpable. This isn't just about adding a cornerback, it's about sending a message. The Miami Dolphins are not content with being playoff hopefuls. They want to be contenders. They want to shut down the league's top passing attacks and put opposing coordinators in a bind. And ASANTE Samuel Jr., if the rumors prove true, could be a massive part of that vision. He's got the pedigree, the skills, and now perhaps, the platform. Fans should keep an eye on Dolphins' social channels because the announcement feels imminent. And when it does drop, expect the NFL world to take notice. ASANTE Samuel Jr. to Miami might not have been the biggest headline this offseason, but it just might end up being one of the most impactful. Buckle up, Dolphins fans. Something big is brewing in South Beach, and all signs point to a defensive resurgence anchored by a name that's ready to rise. That's a wrap for today's dive. If you're loving the content, share it with a fellow Dolphins fan, hit subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a splash. Fins up!